Hey guys, we're out on the road today, Real Simple Rentals. I'm Josh, and today I'm taking you along with me to go look at some houses. This is one of my favorite parts of the process, getting out on the road, assessing houses. This is a great opportunity to show you some of the things that we look for when we are assessing a house for a possible purchase as a BRRRR. We don't do inspections on our houses because we know these houses need a lot of work. We don't need an inspector to tell us that. But that does mean we have to do a little bit of due diligence ourselves to make sure that we have a heads up on some of the major costs we might run into down the road. I'm going to try to get some footage or some pictures of the things that we look for that a house may require some work or some headaches we might run into, or a reason that we might just completely avoid a house altogether. But let's get out there, let's look at some houses and see what we can find. All right, we're back on the road again. We had a chance to take a look at 3 different houses today. Unfortunately, none of these houses are going to be ones I'm going to be putting offers in on, but we did have some opportunity to get some footage of some specific issues that might be useful for you and what might keep you from getting a house. We did find significant amounts of yellow mold in the first house in the basement on the floor joists. Mold is common in anyone's house. It's just always floating around and trying to take root. But when you start to see it accumulate, then it's definitely becoming an issue, and it can be a health hazard for anyone. So when you see significant amounts like what we had seen today, that's something that you're going to have to take into consideration. That's going to need to be fixed, and it can be thousands of dollars to have all of those surfaces sanded down and treated to get rid of that mold. And then you have to ask the question, well, why is there so much mold in the basement? There must be moisture down there. We did find some drain pipes that were heavily corroded and actively leaking, which is a very bad sign. To play it safe, you just have to automatically assume it's going to be a couple $1,000s and just know that it could be more than that. We also got some footage of the roof. The porch roof was becoming separated from the main roof, and that was going to be a costly repair. All of those issues together were just far too expensive for what we could put into this house and hope to get back out of it. The second house we went to see had significantly more potential. This house had some gutter issues, which water is always a threat to a house. The downspouts were all disconnected, and so they were just pouring water onto the ground by the foundation, which then in turn seeps into the cellar space, which this house had a cellar. There wasn't much mold, actually. I was surprised by that. The roof needs to be replaced. The grading on this house, carrying the water away from the foundation, was fairly good in the front. Several inches of drop from the house down to the sidewalk. We did also find some termite damage, so you can take a look and see what that looks like. And then once you find that, it becomes a determination of, do you think the termites are still active? How far did the damage go? You can start poking and prodding at the wood to see how far the softness or the deterioration goes, and does it reach other members, structural members around the damaged area that you found. Just know that if the damage is significant, there's going to be costs associated with repairing that. In this particular house, I did see some cracking around some of the windows, so I was careful to poke and prod to see if the wall itself was soft, which would reveal some water seepage into the wall around the window. I did not find any, so that was good. The cellar to this house was actually difficult to get to, but it brought to light the importance of physically getting into these areas of these houses. You want to see the foundation, you want to see what's underneath these floors. You want to reveal as much as you can about these houses when you go to look at them. So, everyone wants to walk through the main living areas to see what the kitchen looks like, to see what the bathroom looks like. The real bones and undercarriage of the house are incredibly important. So we get down under there so we can see what the joists look like. We can see what's under the house and what kind of damage might have been done and what the years have brought that home. This house also brought to light the importance of looking at the neighbors. On one side, the neighbors took pretty good care of their property, and to the other side, there was a home that had not been cared for at all, and the grass was 3 feet tall. So certainly that's something that can be off-putting to tenants, and so it may affect how much money you can charge. So something else that you're not going to see in the listing for a house are what the neighbors are doing with their homes. The last house that we looked at today was a bit overwhelming with the scope of work that needed to be done to it. I didn't get a lot of footage, or really any footage of it. There was just a lot wrong with it, and it would have been too much to try to capture on film and walk through. But there were a couple key takeaways. One was that this property had a shared driveway, and the house we were looking at had an overhang or a carport that had supports that were right on the line, right on the property line. The supports for the carport were exposed and could easily be struck by a vehicle going into either driveway. And that's just something you got to keep an eye out for. Those types of things, those types of hazards, they could potentially be headaches down the road, or might increase your insurance costs. Also, this house was listed as a 3-bedroom house, but the 3rd bedroom was on the 2nd story, and it was only accessed by a stairwell coming off of the 2nd bedroom. So in reality, that doesn't really count as a bedroom, and that's going to dramatically affect the rent you're going to be able to pull for the property. And occasionally when you go to see houses, you're just going to find that the listings are inaccurate, whether it's purposeful or not, get people to come look at the home. But you need to factor that kind of stuff in and have a keen eye for recognizing that, because you're trying to take in so much when you're looking at these houses. You really want to try to capture as much as you can and really critically think about how the house will function. As I was driving around from house to house, I was also able to get some footage of properties that brought to light some of the other issues you'll look for. I saw many homes that had large trees in their front yard, probably in direct line with the sewer line that's coming out of that house, attaching with the main on the street. And so you have to be aware that those large trees, they will eventually encroach into the sewer lines and damage them. If you can find houses that don't have large trees or any trees in the front yard, that's a great relief, because you don't have to worry about the sewer line getting destroyed by roots. And replacing a sewer line can be $5,000 to $10,000 easily. As I was driving along, I saw houses that had not been cared for at all, and their front yards were severely overgrown. And so that's going to play into your ability to get good rent from a property that's next to those houses. I saw houses that had lots of junk cars accumulated around them, with porches that were filled with debris, and those just become eyesores. That's going to affect the property value, but also your rent earning capability. So I'd highly recommend looking at those things when you're going out and seeing these houses. Another issue you want to keep in mind are retaining walls. You want to inspect retaining walls closely, see if they're leaning, cracking, what the potential is for collapse, because replacing them can be costly, and also they can damage property. So you want to be careful with those. Look closely at them, see if they're cracking or leaning, because it could be a big issue. So we're in the home stretch, almost back at the ranch, so to speak, and we had a pretty good day. We got out, looked at some houses, learned a few things. That is what we do. We get out, we go out, we do our due diligence, we put in the legwork to try to set ourselves up for the best situation possible, and the houses we looked at today just weren't going to cut it. So we try again tomorrow, and eventually we'll find the one, and we'll make it happen. Thanks for joining us. Leave us a comment, tell us what you thought of the video. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.